Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next session in the Campaign Optimization Series. My name is Andrew Gaffney. I'm Editorial Director with Demand Gen Report. Really glad you could join us. One of the core sort of pivotal topics of campaign performance is data. A lot of the folks that we talk to that struggle with conversions and tracking their campaign performance is that they often have inaccurate data, old data, the wrong contacts. So we've got a great case study coming up that's going to share Rockwell Automation's journey to cleaner data through data orchestration. This one and all throughout the series, we'd like to try to make this as interactive as possible, so we'd encourage you to share any comments or any of the points that you've enjoyed on social media. We'll be monitoring those conversations as well. On LinkedIn and Twitter, we'd ask if you could use the hashtag CO series in anything you post. You can also see some of the handles of some of the presenters today if you want to include that in anything that you share. Again, we'll be reposting, answering questions and comments, and hopefully continue the dialogue on social. Our presentation is scheduled to last for around 30 minutes, and we'll take questions and answers at the conclusion of the presentation. Go ahead and type any questions that you have as they come to mind. You can do that right in the Q&A tab within the On24 platform. Again, we'll take those questions and get to them at the conclusion of the presentation. Also, within the On24 platform, you can see there's a resource list where there's some related learning you can access on today's topic, and you can also monitor social media right within the platform as well. One of the frequently asked questions we get is the session is being recorded, so you'll get a chance to go back and review the content or share it with your peers. So let me introduce, we've got great speakers today. We're going to hear from Katrina Lord, who's Marketing Technology Specialist at Rockwell. Katrina has worked at Rockwell Automation for over 2 years as part of a team that supports the marketing technology stack. She has 9 years experience in IT as a business analyst and project manager. She has a passion for empowering users, problem solving, and making people's everyday tasks a little easier. And she's a proud Marquette University alumnus. So welcome, Katrina. Thanks for joining us. We'll also be joined by Jake Dennison, who's Customer Success Manager at OpenPrize. Jake is a proud customer turned Customer Success Manager, so obviously knows both sides of it. Jake attributes the fulfillment he finds in his role and his success with customers to his former lives as both a marketing manager of a SaaS product, so he understands the struggle is very real, and as a former help desk admin, he loves guiding people through solutions. When he's not finding ways to make his customers' lives easier, you can find Jake performing the latest K-pop routines with a local San Francisco K-pop dance group or cracking dad jokes to anyone within earshot. So, Jake, I'm going to turn it over to you to get us started.
Excellent. Thank you. So for our webinar today, I wanted to go ahead and first start off with a brief overview of how the OpenPrize data orchestration platform works. OpenPrize aggregates all the information that you need to make decisions. This includes first-party data in your sales and marketing automation systems, but that's really just the start. You might want to add data from your app's product database, or maybe a local ticketing system, or other reference sources that you create and customize yourself. We also pull in data from dozens of third-party data providers in the OpenPrize data marketplace. This includes data for enriching leads, contacts, accounts, as well as intent data from providers like Rockwell. All that data that you pull in needs to be normalized, though, and so we can help you with that. We also pull in data from what we call the OpenPrize Open Data Catalog. These are free, fully customizable data sets that you can use in automating data processes. Rockwell Automation actually makes very good use of these sources themselves. Secondly, once you have all that data in OpenPrize, you can orchestrate business processes. OpenPrize prepares that data by cleaning it up, normalizing it, conducting processes like validation, deduplication, and link to account matching so that you can have a firm foundation to do any kind of analysis. And that analysis gives you insight. It can be analysis like segmentation and scoring. And then finally, you can take action on those decisions. You can route a lead to the right person. You can attribute revenue to different campaigns to decide where to double down. You can also create your own custom processes. And if you can write that logic down, basically OpenPrize can automate it. And thirdly, OpenPrize can disseminate that information for you. We can send it to all of your core systems like Eloqua, Marketo, Salesforce, Zendesk, your AWS data warehouse, to data portals and BI tools like Tableau so you can do further analysis, or to custom apps and APIs as well, including the internal OpenPrice API factory. So the OpenPrice data orchestration platform lets you aggregate information, orchestrate these processes around that data, and disseminate it across your system so that all of your apps have exactly what they need to deliver the value that you're expecting from them. And I'm very excited to get to share with you Katrina's use case at Rockwell Automation. So Katrina.
Thank you for that introduction, Jake. I'm very happy here today. And thank you all for joining. So as I said, my name is Katrina Lord, and I've been working at Rockwell Automation for a little over 2.5 years. And it took me a while to learn and figure out all that Rockwell does. And I'll admit, I still have a lot of learning to do. So the best description I've heard to date is that we make the things that make the things. Rockwell provides products and software that standardizes processes, ensures consistency and efficiency in manufacturing. So take a brewery, for example. A brewery needs to meet demand, which is growing with isolation laws. In order to meet demand, breweries need and want to have all the vats and gear and all the equipment to work properly. Rockwell lets them know when such things will break so that breweries can anticipate downtime or even proactively repair. So Rockwell helps breweries efficiently use all the grain, malt, barley, all that good stuff in order to keep the expenses and prices low. So when you have that beer delivered, you open it for your virtual happy hour, you expect your favorite beer to taste the same as it did the last time you drank it. Especially in times like these, you want one thing to be consistent, and Rockwell helps with that. And what Rockwell does for manufacturing, we needed to complete internally for our data. So where did we start? What now feels like a long time ago, back in January 2019, we began our data orchestration journey with OpenPrice. So as seen on the first slide, Rockwell is over 117 years old with businesses over 100 countries and 23,000 employees. That's a lot of potential marketing contacts. So we gather our data on web forms, customer portals such as myrockwell.com, through event registrations, which are virtual and in person, and from networking events and purchase lists and so on. That a lot of data means a lot of chances for bad data. And bad data can come from honest mistakes intentionally. So Katrina, you are not gettingmydata.com. It ages and stales, or you could even have form fills for amusement, which I'll admit I'm guilty of. I enjoy coming up with clever form fills. And laziness, copying and pasting that same value across all the fields, et cetera, et cetera. The marketing team at Rockwell has all this data, and we were already doing some cleanup within Eloqua, which is our marketing database, but Eloqua has limited abilities, and it wasn't geared for what we wanted to do. A limitation example is only able to match and update on exact matches for table lookups. And identifying bad data is not quite straightforward. And so OpenPrice entered into our story. We knew we needed to clean up our data. Our metaphorical beer didn't taste the same with each bottle. And in order for us to get started with OpenPrice, we needed to get to know our data a little bit better. So what were we starting with? With some analysis, we identified our weaknesses. And we're talking our true weaknesses, not strengths that are spun for a job interview. So our weaknesses included data gaps. We had incomplete contact records, and the data we did have sometimes broke our own data standards. Shame on us. So we also had a lot of misaligned contacts with the wrong countries, and that can be legal issues when it comes to data privacy and consent laws. Now, we also had strengths. With analysis, 82% of our North American contacts were considered valid at the beginning. And our first action was tagging so that we knew which records could be used for inferences and reporting, which we called bragging rights. So using OpenPrice, we tagged our emails first. We had the disposal, so the qqq.com, the personal, AOL.com, yes, that still exists, and which ones are okay. And the most impressive, which emails needed fixing, and if we fix those emails, would there be a duplicate record? So this was changing, for example, .con to .com. So if we switch that email, we would know that one exists. And then we went to our geographic data. So which of our addresses were valid, which were likely valid, and which needed human intervention. The little robots in OpenPrize can do a lot, but not everything, which is good news for job security. So let's take a look at how our data looked tagged. So as of April 20th, 2020, we had an increase of our valid North American contacts from 82% to 89%. Then we also had 2% that needed manual intervention. 1% is revalidating. Since we have programs that run 24 times a day, there's always some that are in the process of getting validated because of changes. And then 8% just didn't have enough data for us to determine if it was valid, or it just was simply an email address. And then our email breakdown is 83% of our emails are tagged OK. So we can use those for inferences. And so how did we get to there? So the address gaps were our top priority for what to fix. We took the job that validated our data and added in tasks to improve our data. We inferred city, state, or country using reference sheets with zip codes in city and state. So go back in time to algebra class. If you have 2 out of 3 numbers, you can solve for the third. So if you have a contact with 90210 in California, you can safely fill in Beverly Hills. Yes, you can figure out Beverly Hills by zip alone, but with California, you can fill in Beverly Hills with much more confidence. Round 2 of our geodata goal is to also fill in zip code. So we created data tables using OpenPrize of all of our contacts with a valid address and an OK email, so those tags that we covered. And we match on address 1 and city of the most commonly used addresses for the email address and domain. So OpenPrize fills in the gaps, double checks it, and sends the new data to Eloqua. And so this is a job that runs 24 times a day, pulling in new or changed records to keep our data consistently clean. Now, sadly, we cannot perfect all of our contacts. We do, however, now at least know which contacts need more attention due to the manual flags. And as they say, knowledge is power. So goal 1 is achieved. Our next goal is to improve our marketing attributes. So our 4 most important or key marketing attributes are our job level, job function, customer type, and industry. These are used for personalization of emails, and so our segmentation. So that's the grouping of contacts. And as you can see, we increase these values by little and by a lot. And next I'll show how. The more contacts with marketing attributes equals more relevant and accurate email. In general, just more reach. So for a company attribute, we inferred the most popular value using the email address domain. As brilliantly put by Jake at OpenPrize, we retroactively crowdsourced our industry and customer type values. So if we have 2 workers at Duff Beer, so Duffman and Homer both work there. Duffman fills out the forms, Homer doesn't. We can take the company level fields that Duffman or anyone at Duff Beer fills out and apply them to Homer or anyone else that doesn't have these fields. So let's take a look at how we filled our contact level attributes. For contact attributes, we filled these values using inferences from the job title. We have programs in Eloqua, but the data tables were only exact matches. OpenPrize can do fuzzy matching, which helps us match despite misspellings. And OpenPrize can also complete data cleansing at the beginning of the job. So for example, MMG for manager, which is pretty awesome because people like shorthand. We use data sheets of common job titles tied to our job level and job function, and we take advantage of contains logic. An example of this in Eloqua, we could match the title of Chief Executive Officer to the job level of the executive. If the job title is Chief Executive Officer of Dad's Beer and Chief is misspelled, Eloqua wouldn't match that, but OpenPrize would. Now we don't have a job title filled in for all contacts. And what are we doing about that? I'm glad you asked. So Google offers 100 API calls a day for free. And free sounds like a good deal. So we created a search string to call in public data from the World Wide Web. We search for job titles of our active contacts that don't have a job title, job level, or job function. And then we compare the results that we receive for that job search and compare the last name and company to make sure that they align, and then add it to the the contact. And so if you remember, we also have the job that will fill in job level and job function using the job title. So we use that job next and try and complete the contact record even more. So now we have contacts with more complete geodata and contact profiles. So let's take a look at what else we're doing. So sorry, Eloqua, but we're going to talk a few of your weaknesses too. So there's a very limited auditing within Eloqua. So we created an audit log within OpenPrize for specific contact fields. The audit log even includes the value that was before and after the change. So OpenPrize compares the values so that it only documents truly records that changed. And an audit log is simply nice security for any mass updates. We also use it for the validation job so that we only are checking the records that are relevant. And we've also used this to make educated decisions about form fills and just our gating in general. So using the email address domain, we also were able to fill in business web addresses. Once one contact has a web address, we can apply it to all contacts with that same email domain, which is a very nice waterfall effect. 48% of the business web addresses that we have in our database were actually filled by OpenPrize jobs, and that was as of April 20th. So the business web address is critical to our account-based marketing, which we are increasing at Rockwell Automation. So where do we go from here? Now that we've Marie Kondoed our database and we only kept what brings us joy, our database is highly decluttered, and we are able to easily identify the records that need attention. And it's also easier to find new trends that we can use OpenPrize jobs to address. The one thing we noticed is that there was an opportunity for cleaning the country assigned by postal code structure on the email address domain, so .cn, .pl, or using unique cities such as Shanghai, and then assigning those to the proper countries, such as China. Now we're focusing on fixing the geodata for invalid addresses that do not have gaps. So previously we were only filling in the gaps. And we accomplished this by looking at the top addresses per the email domain and overriding the address that didn't match. There's always room for improvement, and currently we're working regionally to address trends and unique circumstances. An example is adding data sheets for different languages for job title and job function matching. And finally, we are looking to create alerts for address changes that will notify sales if they are considered critical. Whew, that's a lot of talking about our team in Rockwell Automation. Let's talk a little bit about you. So every database is a little bit different. We have our own issues to solve, and that's just specifically talking about the database. So what are some steps that you, the viewers, can take? To start, you can create segments or reports in Eloqua to find your broken field standards. We were pretty surprised by this one at Rockwell Automation, and I'm sure you'll find some that will surprise you as well. And then investigate the origins of your rebel records. So if you fix the problem that's feeding your database, you'll have less records to clean down the way. Then prioritize based on how you segment or fields that are used in the validation and assignment. This will bring you a lot more improvement and also notable, so that way other teams can see how your cleansing has improved the database and their own processes. And then find a mentor, so a company like OpenPrize that has all the experience and can help you with your projects at a different level. And if you can't have OpenPrize or any extra cash on hand, which a lot of companies are a little strapped for cash right now, you can create segments to find the gaps that you can fill in manually. So for an example, contacts with address 1, city, state, country, you can fill in the zip. And if you can export to Excel from your marketing database, those Excel sorting features will save you a lot of time. And you can probably identify groupings of the same fixes. And that usually stems from some sort of import that was just a little bit off. And then check the full list of values for fields. So this is in Eloquent settings. I know it's also in Salesforce, and you can see all the values for certain fields. And you can find some that just don't belong. Sesame Street taught us how to do that. And a program using data tables. So you can fix with exact matches, as I kind of bashed that earlier, but if that is where you can start, it is a little bit, and a little adds up to a lot. So thank you all for your time today and listening to this story. I wish you all the best of health, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll now hand this over to Jake.
Excellent. Thanks, Katrina. So it's been a pleasure being able to work with Katrina on Rockwell's data journey and build those processes that Katrina spelled out for you. I just wanted to share a couple additional resources that OpenPrize offers to help you on your data journey. So you'll see a couple of the resources linked to in the sidebar here. Also, reach out to info@openprizetech.com with any questions you might have for our team. We're always happy to help, and you can find us at www.openprizetech.com.
All right. I want to thank you, Katrina and Jake. It was a great, we packed a lot of really good information, examples, and ideas into a nice 22-minute presentation. So that's great. We've got good time for Q&A. We've already got some good ones coming in. Quick reminder to the audience, if you didn't already type in your question, you have one, go ahead and do that. We'll spend a couple minutes now covering the questions that have come in. So, Katrina, the first question we have for you is for Jessica. She asked how you were managing your data processes before you were using OpenPrize.
Sure. So as I have referenced a little bit throughout, that we did use Eloqua programs, and that included the data tables. And so I know each of us are probably using different CRM systems. Each have kind of a concept of that. And so we had looked at what was trending in some of our mismatches, and then we just created programs that just continually ran, and to fix those as those came up, and then would revisit that every now and then through reporting just to see if there's new trends of mismatchings coming through.
Okay, great. Question from Susan. She asked, what has been the biggest impact on Rockwell's marketing and sales efficiency by running the projects that you've been through OpenPrize?
Sure, there's been a couple of different ones that do come to mind. I would give an example of one of our newsletters that we have multiple versions of per industry. And with an ability to increase the assignment of the industry to our contacts, we're able to shift our contacts to the proper version of that newsletter. So if we didn't have an industry, they just would receive a general newsletter. But with an industry assigned to that contact, they would then receive the newsletter that was specific to it. So that has been a great way to personalize the information that we're sending out to our contacts. And then the other way, I know you said just the top one, but the second one would be our APR process, which is through how we assign our contacts for leads to the proper sales region. And with the cleaned up geographic data, our process has been much more accurate with assigning leads. And of course, the sales team greatly appreciates that. So that way when they're calling those contacts, it's within their region and they do have the proper information to provide them.
Okay, awesome. Jake, let me ask you if you can come back in. I'll try to get both your perspectives on this question. question from Sam was, what other processes could a platform like this be handling for Rockwell outside of the current project? Jake, maybe you could take a crack at that first, and then I'll ask Katrina for her perspective.
Definitely. The typical use cases that OpenPrice handles are things like lead routing, deduplication, lead to account matching. I had mentioned some of those before Katrina's talk. But as you heard during her talk and just now, there's a lot of processes that are custom to Rockwell that there are no way I could have foreseen us being able to help out with. But luckily, Katrina had the insight to realize that there are processes that can always be lifted out of your marketing automation platform of choice and lifted into a platform like OpenPrice so that you're easing the load on your platform. Before I was a customer success manager here, I was marketing manager, and I used Marketo, and there were processes I was able to lift out of Marketo to be able to have that system work much more efficiently, not having to churn through geographic validation every day. So we also focus on things like attribution and enrichment and scoring. Those are other big use cases for us that hopefully some items like that we can pick up for Rockwell very soon.
Awesome. Katrina, anything else you could think of that you have an eye on that maybe other processes you'd be looking at?
Sure. So OpenPrice has also added some more data sheets that we can use for references, and they're always kind of tossing those in there, which is also one of the great things about them. And so I know that they added some more for EMEA, so the European region, that we are going to adopt into our programs to help validate and potentially fill in data for those contexts so that geodata is even more robust. So I'd say you never know what might be next, sky's the limit, but that would be one of the first things that we'll tackle.
Okay, awesome. We had a question from Brian that asked about, in terms of like privacy policies, if this has helped you with compliance or if you see that as a potential use case.
I would say yes. So we are able to make sure that our contacts are assigned to the correct country, and with that alone comes each of the individual privacy laws. And so we know that if we're moving contacts from a country that was improperly assigned that has lesser laws, it's a potential for legal issues. So getting those contacts properly assigned is a huge gain.
Are you seeing that? Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say we actually have built out a whole feature around GDPR compliance, which would apply similarly to any sort of CCPA compliance. But our feature allows you to detect which records might be from, say, an EU nation, and then control the processing of those records such that people who are logging into OpenPrice on your behalf can only access some or access redacted data, and they can't export it or send it to another system without some sort of approval. So we control how the data can be moved around, and we perform that validation of a contact that might be in an EU country in a number of ways. So we'll take either from their phone number or their email or from a website value if it's not directly evident that in the country field there's an EU country specified. So we have a whole suite of controls built out around that for compliance.
Awesome. Question, Joanne was looking at the future. Katrina asked, as you're thinking of the future and sort of future-proofing, anything that you would be on the horizon you're looking at more advanced, either with ABM or personalization, just if you think that this would factor into that strategy, or any other future things you have on the horizon?
So we have also pulled in LinkedIn profile information, so just the URL, so that way we can utilize that for different contexts. But we haven't quite figured out how that will fit into the ABM. The business web address is the biggest one, and we are going to also take a look at for the companies that we do not have a business web address for, if we can utilize the email address domain. So that will help us with account-based marketing. Anything specific within that question that I didn't answer?
No, I think that's good. Yeah, I think we should mostly looking for ABM. Jake, is that something that you're seeing? Is ABM one of the other priorities and business processes that you're seeing customers look to address?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of the most every customer that we work with nowadays is, of course, got some sort of ABM strategy or a desire to be an APM, to have an APM strategy in place. So a lot of the processes that Katrina and I ended up architecting to do that sort of spread of information amongst people who are at the same company based on a similar web address or a similar email domain can support that.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been awesome. Again, like I said, you guys have provided a lot of great examples and specifics and some ideas, I think, for our audience. So, Katrina, I want to thank you for the case study, and Jake for your perspective as well. This is outstanding.
Thank you.
Okay, I also want to remind our audience that our next session in the series will be on Double Down on Customer Centricity, Building Campaigns That Work, and that will be at 3 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully you can join us for that. I also want to remind everyone to go back and check the agenda for any sessions that you may have missed. Everything will be available on demand, so you can go back and check those out. Also share them with your peers. Otherwise, I want to thank our speakers again and thank you all for attending. Have a great rest of your day.